Hey, good morning and welcome to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Bill Dixon and Michael Shetler, along with the head basketball coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach Jon Everingham. Coach, thanks for being with us this morning.
Good morning.
Fantastic win last night. The Plymouth Pilgrims came to town. It's always a tough program, NLC conference matchup. And you guys came out on the winning end of it, 45-39, and at times looked like a very, very good basketball team out there on the floor.
Yeah, I think you're right. I had a conversation after the game, and just with somebody who knows basketball, and it's just Plymouth is just one of those programs that's just hard to beat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you look at their individual players, and you might think that we have an advantage at 3 or 4 spots, or any team just takes a look at them. And they execute their stuff really well, and they're always hard to beat. And so, their schedule's very, very tough. And, you just kind of throw the record out and understand that last night I felt like I thought that it was just an even matchup. You know, 2 teams that were very, very similar, 2 teams that have aspirations of being good, basketball teams. And so it was a good game for us to pull out because, learning how to win is certainly something we've been talking about, within our team.
You had the good fortune as the game wore on to have fewer and fewer and fewer turnovers. But I almost think it was more of a mental thing than a physical thing. Your kids just adapted and adopted the mindset that that's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, we went through a rough stretch. You guys know, you've been there, you've seen us play every game. So we went through a stretch with I think 4 straight games of 19 or 20 turnovers, and we've been working hard. Look, I mean, we practice. I've been saying for a couple weeks, we just need the court time, the practice time, and we finally got it. And I think you saw that at Northwood, we played a little bit better. We attacked the basket, better than we had been doing, and then at Mishawaka, we handled the ball better. But Northwood, we turned the ball over 20 times, and gave them 24 or 26 points off turnovers, and still were competitive in that game. Mishawaka puts a lot of pressure on the ball, and we were able to handle the ball, turn the ball over, I think 12 or 13 times. And so it's been a point of emphasis in our practices. Old school drills, 4-corner passing and catching the ball, throwing it to the outside hand, pivoting, and making sure that we reduce the space between 2 players when you're passing them the ball. Really simple, elementary, fundamental stuff that we've been doing a better job of. And then last night, we started the game. We lost our shooters a couple times, and I watched the film last night when I got home, and I think we were down like 14-6.
Mm-hmm.
I think their largest lead was 8 points at 14-6, and it surely didn't. It kind of probably made you think, if you watched our team all year, you say, oh, here we go. This isn't going to be, this is going to be another one of those games. And you get a little nervous, but it's a credit to our guys and their belief in what we're doing, that they just kind of stuck with, what we were trying to do offensively and defensively. And we knocked down a couple shots. Ethan Carey, early in the game just kind of kept it close, kept it together. And, if they hit a couple more buckets at 14-6, then we're really put behind the 8 ball with the way they run their offense, how patient they are. It would have been tough, but we didn't fold. We didn't have a negative attitude. Just all the things that you can think of in terms of negativity when you're down 14-6, things aren't going well. You got to give credit to our seniors. All 3 of them played well last night. Give credit to our seniors for holding things together, and then, like I said, we knocked down a couple shots, and now it's a ball game at halftime.
Yeah, what kind of stuck out to me, and you talking about the hitting of those shots, is the shooting percentage from the field itself. We kind of talked about keys being for the past couple of weeks effective offense and taking those effective shots and those makeable shots. And something that stood out to me was we shot over 50% from the field, and that's something we haven't been doing throughout the year. And so I think that was a huge key, especially in the past 2 weeks. I remember the Mishawaka game, you talked about how you saw your team executing the offensive game plan a lot better than you had in the past. And then last night, shooting over 50% from the field, and you saw some great-looking shots. I was just really impressed with just the presence of mind to take the high-quality shots and pass up some of those harder shots that we may have taken in the past. Your thoughts on the shooting performance from your team last night?
Well, I tell you, they started number 50, and he had only played a minute and a half, I think, in the season. And in the season of COVID, you never know, has he been quarantined? And we didn't know a lot about Michael Shealy. He started the game. He's, I think, a 6'3" sophomore. Freshman, sophomore. We weren't real sure who he was and why he was starting. But once you kind of see his body type, you realize that, with our 6'5", 6'6", or whatever on the inside, and Colin, really coming along well, they started him because they were a little worried about our interior, offense. So, they packed it in. They did a good job of taking some of that stuff away. So when you talk about shooting percentage, it wasn't like we got a lot of layups. And, we executed the offense, got the shots that we wanted to get, and then we knocked them down. And, in the first half, I told you guys, in the first half of Mishawaka, I thought it was the best half of basketball that we played. We just didn't knock down those shots, So we executed our offense really well against Mishawaka in the first half. And I thought we did again last night. And so, look, when you play against teams like Plymouth and Coach Bales, they do such a good job of scouting and trying to take you out of what you want to do. We executed some stuff early, the dribble handoff, and really trying to get the ball moving side to side, ball reversals, and get our big men on the move, moving towards the basket to try to get some easy layups. But they took that away from us, and we had to quickly shift away from that and try some different things. So we went to our blocker mover stuff, and our guards did a good job of finding open men. I mean, Cameron Salazar again last night, 5 assists. And I thought that's really indicative of how comfortable we are running our offense at this point in the season.
Yeah, and then that win last night also snapped another 3-game losing streak. And I know we don't talk a lot about the wins and losses. You're more about the progression in the game and how the team is playing. But I'm just curious what your message was to your guys after a big win last night, knowing that you guys have a big game coming up tonight. Is it just a kind of encouraging factor knowing that you did get the win and then telling your guys, hey, we're going to have to bring this over? Or is it just, hey, guys, this is what we did good and we have to continue to do this for tomorrow night's game?
Okay, guys, we're getting into it now, right? This is what the radio show is for, right? Just a little inside information on what Coach thinks and what's said in the locker room. And, so
that's why the listeners pay the big bucks, right?
Yeah, really, yeah, that's right. So I'll give you a little insight. I think, we talked about, our games leading up to this and really trying to take pressure off these young guys, and young people in high school and saying this isn't about being a must win, we have to win. We certainly want to win. We strive to win, but we understand that, well, number one, it's just a game. It's a learning opportunity for kids. We've talked about all this stuff, right? But at some point, you do need to talk about winning. And I cautiously approached this week. I really didn't want to say this is a must-win, but I kept telling them we're getting really close to saying, as a basketball team, we got to start winning. We need to win. And I really wanted to, but I was nervous about saying this is a must-win and then not winning, and how we would respond to that. So I just kept telling them this week, this isn't a must-win, but we're getting close. We're getting close to saying those words that we got to win a basketball game, because if the goals of our team and the goals of our players is to win a championship, to be right there when it's all said and done, to have a chance in the sectional championship, to win a sectional. And in order to do that, in order for them, the team, to accomplish the goals, you have to win during the regular season. You have to learn how to win. And so, we built a lead just a little bit. I know it wasn't much, but in the type of game it was last night, when we got up 4-6 points, you could see we started running our offense a little bit higher. We started controlling the clock. We started to make them do things that they weren't comfortable with. They pressed us in the full court. I think we were up 6. They started to press us. Other than one possession, we had a turnover right in the middle of the floor. We attacked that full court pressure and got layups. Colin missed a layup, and Dukes made a nice pass up the sideline to to Brooks, and Brooks put it right back in his hands, and he went in for a wide open layup. Well, that certainly makes you think, as an opposing team or opposing coach, like what are we going to do to these guys? We're down. We have to put pressure on them, and it looks like they're content, holding the ball and waiting for the clock to run out. And so we did a good job. That's part of learning how to win. And then we got big stops, on the defensive end, good rebounds with two hands. And so I was proud of our guys. As we learn how to win, we put ourselves in position to win, and then we executed down the stretch. We could have made a few more free throws down the stretch, but we did what it took to pull that game out last night.
Yeah, me and Bill have consistently talked about how at the beginning of the year there was just some kind of chemistry, just some kind of togetherness that we saw that was just so impressive. And then with COVID hitting and just that being totally rattled, and then coming back and trying to regroup, we're starting to see that come back again, and we saw glimpses of that last night. And you kind of talked about those crisp passes. One that stands out to me was there's the full court press by Plymouth. They had that zone press, and we go up the sideline. Keaton Dukes passes it over to Colin, and Colin passes it right back to Keaton Dukes, just like bang, bang, easy layup. Just like that takes practice, that takes chemistry, that takes togetherness, and we're starting to see that again. Are you starting to see kind of that familiarity, that chemistry come back to your guys?
Well, I think as a coach, you feel it too. You can feel it because we spend a lot of time together, in the locker room. You guys know, athletics in general, and you get a chance to spend a lot of time with these boys, and start to really figure out who they are and what makes them tick, and so just been very impressed. Honestly, I know it's, we'll talk, later on in the show about senior night and West Noble and all that stuff, but it generally starts with your leaders, and so we're a little bit of a weird team, and we're hard to read sometimes because our personalities, like when you look at Cameron Salazar, he's a great kid, right? But he's not a rah-rah guy on the court. He's not jumping up and down.
No, you've got a whole group of hyper-grounded individuals right there.
Yeah, so they're hard to read sometimes, and sometimes you want to ask, hey, is everything okay? But they're really focused. They're ultra-focused. Cameron Salazar, the ultra-focused guy. You can hear Ethan Carey out there, leading. And at one point, I'll tell you, again, things that people just don't understand. And I would like to talk about this later about the behavior report from the IHSAA for our team. I heard Ethan Carey last night late in the game just rip Keaton Dukes a new one. And I kind of turned, and he said, you do not throw the ball to the official. You run up and you hand him the ball. And I thought, that has nothing to do with us beating Plymouth, right? But it is about who we are as a basketball team and a basketball program, that we don't throw the ball to the official. We go up and hand the ball to the official, So there are values that we teach within the program, and coaches can't do that alone.
Yeah.
It's got to be your senior leaders, your leaders on the team that kind of buy into some of those concepts. And I think it's very evident that I know we're running out of time here in this segment, but I think it's very evident that our seniors get it. And just very proud of them. We don't win the game last night with all three of those seniors, and leaders on the team, just kind of keeping things the way they should be on the floor. And so, you could get into so many stories off the floor, in the locker room and in practice and things like that. So there's a lot that has to go right in order for us to play like we did last night and to pick up a victory, and I think we're on the right track.
Coach Jon Everingham of the Wawasee Warriors as they celebrate their big win last night over Plymouth and get ready for West Noble this evening. We'll come back with Coach Everingham a little bit later. Also joining us today will be Ethan Carey of the Wawasee basketball program, who had a very special thing happen in the last week, a positive behavior report from the IHSAA. Those don't just happen. We're going to talk about that. And also coming in tonight, Vince Beasley, who's an administrator here at Wawasee. We'll talk about his role and things he's doing with the basketball program as well. This is Coach's Corner. Back in just a moment on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Bill Dixon and Michael Shetler now joined by Vince Beasley, old school Wawasee High School basketball alum, just like me, came back and was a nut, returned home, and now the head of the CTE program at Wawasee High School. Vince, thanks for coming in and being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Basketball now compared to basketball when you went through. Compare that, because you're here, you see it every day. How does it compare? What's the difference? How is it just the same as it always was?
I think that's a really good question. That's 25 years ago, so some things have certainly changed.
Right, it's just a snap of the fingers for some of us, but go on.
I think there's some commonalities. In terms of defense and offense would be certainly we want to see kids put it in the basket. Defensively, we want to stay in front of our guys and we want to turn them and we want to make them be uncomfortable. Maybe some differences I would think in our conference. Maybe pace of play a little bit sometimes. I can recall full court pressure at times from teams. We weren't aware what was happening. Last night I think Plymouth did some 1-3-1 action.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see quite as much as maybe the mix of defenses as maybe we see now. I think the zone has evolved over 25 years for sure.
Yeah.
My dad always told me the zone was banned in the NBA because it worked. And, after 25 years, I'm like, I get it. We were man-to-man and just go play. So, I think those were some differences. The big piece this year, of course, would be, when our kids travel or when our kids are at home, we don't have the fans, So
Because of the COVID thing.
That sixth man piece, certainly this year, is completely different. And I give a lot of credit to the kids because it seems like every game they're coming out and giving everything they have. And not to say that we didn't, but the fans certainly help give you a little boost.
I think the biggest change I see over the years that I've been covering basketball, and you were one of the first ones that came through when I started calling play-by-play. I think that it occurred or started during the Coach Mishler era for us, but I think it occurred pretty much around the state at about the same time. Is that student basketball players, student athletes, but particularly basketball in Indiana, those individuals have gone from being student athletes to student ambassadors to almost community ambassadors now. The expectations on these young men are no longer only on the wood. They are all the time out in the community, and not just if somebody asks you. No. You have an expectation to reach out to others, especially young people, 3rd, 4th graders. That's a whole different game than what you and I saw when we went through, and I think it's a real positive thing for everybody.
Bill, that's a really good point. And when I think back to the time when I played, the closest thing we had to that was autograph night.
Mm-hmm.
And we signed posters or what have you. Young kids, certainly they're student leaders in their building, they're student leaders in the community, and it really can set you up for a nice situation after you're done with high school if you're taking care of what you need to during that 4 years or whatever time you're here. And I haven't really looked at it from that lens. I'm old enough to step back, and when I say 25 years, I think I'm going to use that benchmark for quite some time now. Because my buddies and I have talked about it, and I think that's a lapse, so we're going to keep going with it. But certainly things have evolved. But, from a student-athlete point of view now, they have a lot of things coming at them, the online situation with Twitter and just getting instant results and seeing who's doing what. I mean, last night we could tell what games are happening, what the scores are in the halftime, third quarter, fourth quarter. We know everything right now. And good or bad, that's just where we're at. So we deal with it and we move forward.
Yeah, the instantaneous thing of it applies a level of pressure on the young people that is almost incalculable. You just don't know how big it's going to be. Being here at the school, I know you see the fact that we're hosting sectional this year. It's only 5 weeks out. For an administrator such as you, that's gotta add some added pressure for you, even though you're not the AD. But this is an all hands on deck opportunity.
Yeah, when you host sectionals, you're kind of showcasing what our school is and what we do and how we do it. We're optimistic that we'll have some fans. We don't know to what capacity. I know from a athletic standpoint, in the past we've hosted it. It's been a great experience. Fans like it, referees like it, but it encapsulates, it takes in everybody. So, you're talking the visiting players, the visiting managers, the visiting coaches, the visiting administrators, their teachers, the parents, their fans. And we want to do the best that we can to showcase what we have here. And most certainly, I think there's an innate advantage for hosting because our kids get to shoot in the gym they shoot in every day.
Yeah.
Even if we only have the individuals who are now allowed in the gymnasium for a basketball team. Because of the way sectional is laid out, that's going to double the number of individuals in that gymnasium unless they bring them all out for one game and let them all back in for the next one, which is not typically how they've done it, at least. It's going to be the biggest crowds of the year, no question.
Sure. And, I think as we progress in terms of a conference or in terms of the state, it's fluid, right? So, we may have some different directions from our county that could impact what we do and how we do it in our gym in 5 weeks. Again, we're optimistic. We'll see how it goes. We want to be safe, but we want to be professional, but we also want to provide a great environment for our young people that are participating in, the most important week of their quote unquote career at that point.
And that brings me to a question I wanted to ask you, because the probability of a big jump in attendance for sectional is there. You at Wawasee played in some of the biggest crowds, played in front of some of the biggest crowds we ever had. The Beasley years, where you and your brother were on the floor, brought a couple of sold-out nights. I mean, Wawasee has not had that many sold-out nights in the gym. And we've played some games at places like DeKalb and Warsaw when you played. I can remember nights at the Tiger Den when it was full. What difference does it make to that player when you go to and that big crowd jump, that big jump in attendance occurs? How does that affect the player? Because you were there, you can tell us.
Yeah, the energy and excitement that 5,000 fans brings, or 3,000 fans here in the TP, or 3,000 fans in the pit, at Northwood or wherever we went, it seemed to be pretty crowded. I think naturally, as a 17-year-old, when you run out there, there's a level of excitement inside you that you have to be able to contain and play your game versus getting caught up maybe in the opposing fans and what they're saying to you about whatever, and focus on your job at hand. Our kids today, whether it's 1,000 fans or 1,500 or 2,000, whatever, they're still feeling that excitement. They don't know any different because that's just what's kind of evolved,
Right.
I think one of the advantages we had 25 years ago was every Friday and Saturday, people knew when we were playing. Now, it could be Tuesday, it could be Thursday, it could be Wednesday. We don't really have that consistency, so I think that's played a factor. But, I also think for young people, as they continue to train and progress with their games, whether it's 3,000 or 4,000, the best figure out how to do it under whatever circumstance you throw at them. So those really strong teams and the strong leaders figure out how to kind of rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
Now, you're part of the CTE program. You're the head of the CTE program here at Wawasee. The CTE program has had a tremendous explosion in the number of individuals participating in it, partly because you have really evolved that program from being one where it's just a few careers training folks who are not going on to college, where you're now training folks who are going on to college. We spoke to one young lady last week on this show who's planning on getting a PhD and is in your CTE program. That didn't used to happen, Vince.
No, it's a really exciting time, and when we talk to our students, we provide opportunities for kids in 13 to 14 programs and 300 students from 5 districts, and it's really exciting to talk with young people about those post-secondary plans, whatever I should say, post-high school plans. So if they're going straight to the workforce, we celebrate it. If they're going to the military, we celebrate it. If they're going to college, we celebrate that. What we want everyone to have is a plan. So it doesn't matter what plan you choose. We want you to have a plan when you're done, and if you can do that and you have certifications and you're ready to go, we're excited.
Yeah, and kind of going back to the difference between now and 25 years ago, I think speaking of the CTE program, that's something that has definitely evolved. And I know this radio television program specifically, I've been a member, I've been involved, gone through it in high school. And again, back in those days, you weren't able to watch the games on TV consistently week in and week out. And now we have that. We have consistent radio broadcasters. We have consistent, television opportunities and stuff where, again, especially with COVID hitting us right now where not everyone's allowed to go. Grandma and grandpa aren't allowed to go to the games and watch every week and travel all the time. Those opportunities, I feel like, are so awesome and so vital. And I think sometimes maybe the community doesn't even realize like how much of a gift that is, to have that in home and away games a lot of times. So, again, I think that's awesome to see, especially in the COVID season. Kind of your thoughts as the, CTE director, how you've seen that kind of develop throughout the years and what it's doing to the community.
Yeah, great question. 25 years ago, I think we would refer to the programming that we offer in our wing as vocational. And the vocational, whether we want to admit it or not, had a somewhat of a negative connotation in some people's eyes. Now, when I say career in technical education, people are starting to realize, wait, there's more beyond high school. There's certificates, there's training. These kids are ready to go in the workforce if they need to be. They're ready to go to post-secondary if they need to be. And the hands-on opportunities that they have, certainly we feel like offer some opportunities that they wouldn't have had 25 years ago. I can tell you strictly from a radio and TV standpoint, I get texts from friends, hey, how do I watch the game, Vinny? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I send them the link. Oh my gosh, I didn't know it was HD. I didn't know we actually had people like calling the game. I didn't know. And it's a really good experience for them. So what we try to do is give opportunities for kids to be successful in whatever area they want to do. We flavor their electives to meet their interest. And then we hope that on top of their hard work and dedication to the program equals some success beyond high school.
Yeah, that's got to expand the requirements for your guidance people and folks like that too, because you're speaking much more specifically about a life path than you would have been then.
Bill, that I think what you just said is really, really important. It kind of stretches our guidance counselors. We have 3. We had 3 when I was here. For 950 students or so. It certainly stretches them, and we're having a little bit deeper conversations with incoming 8th graders probably than we had years ago. We're also maybe tweaking schedules for that next year a little bit more often than we have. I say, and I have said this always, at Wawasee, we're large enough to offer a lot of opportunities for kids. We're small enough to know who we graduate with.
That's good. Yeah.
Vince Beasley of the Wawasee Warriors, he's now the director of the CTE program. I remember as that scoring guard out there for Wawasee High School for many, many years. We appreciate you being with us, Vince.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be back with more Coach's Corner. Ethan Carey from the Wawasee High School basketball program joining us next here on Coach's Corner, 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Michael Shetler and I'm Bill Dixon. Here talking now with Ethan Carey. Ethan, I hate to call you the point guard because you score so much, so I don't know the point guard's exactly right, but one of the guards for the Wawasee High School basketball program. We've tried to nickname him the Ghost. We don't know if that's catching yet or not, but he disappears right there in front of the guard play for the opposition. And all of a sudden, he's got the ball, and he are gone. They just don't know where it went.
I love it.
Ethan, thanks for being with us today. Tell us a little bit about, let's just start with the big thing that happened in the last week or two, this exemplary behavior report from the IHSAA. Coach Everingham, we've already talked to him about it. First of all, how did it happen? What did you do that brought about this report from the officials to the IHSAA?
Well, I was just being myself.
Yeah.
Just trying to be the most respectful person on the court. And handing the ball to the referee every time, saying thank you, sir, no matter what. And it was actually a surprise to me when I saw that report. I really appreciated that, and I liked it personally. It was awesome.
Well, yeah. Two things I would ask you about that. And the first one I probably shouldn't ask, but I'm going to anyway. Do you see a lot of that on the court? Are there other people that are doing that you notice on the court regularly, particularly in opposing teams? Do you see that from the other guys too?
I don't hear it, but I've seen a lot of people helping our team up, from the opposing team helping our own team up, and same with our team helping the opposing team up.
Okay.
I love seeing stuff like that. It's great shows of sportsmanship, and I love that.
Yeah.
Now, Coach Everingham told us that you got on Keaton Dukes a little bit last night because he wasn't living up to that level of expectation that you had. Is that a new role for you, or is that something that you've always done? Where you have felt not only a responsibility for your own level of, I'll call it sportsmanship.
Yeah.
It's really more than that, but that's what I'll label it for right now. And now then you're trying to make sure those other team members come along. Is that new for you, a new role, or not?
I've always tried to lift my teammates up and make sure they're not slacking on the court. That's always been my role as a player. And no matter what, if I'm scoring or not, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to play hard and make sure my team plays hard.
You know, that comment tells me a ton, because how did he open that? He didn't say how he tried to get them to change their behavior or whatever. He tried to lift my teammate up. That says a bunch. That says a bunch. Michael.
Yeah, and speaking of your role on the team, I think we've kind of seen a transition from past years to this year, where in the past years you've always been an excellent ball handler, one of the best that I've ever seen. Just I love the nickname the Ghost because, again, you're so shifty with the ball. There was a play last night, I remember, at the end of the game, breaking the press, where you were driving. You kind of just like a little shimmy shake, like you looked left, and the entire defense just totally bit, and then you just drove and then dished it beautifully to Grant Brooks, who finished it down low. So you've always had that, but I think this year you've kind of had not only a new kind of leadership role as a senior, but a new kind of scoring role as well, where you're leading the team right now in three-point percentage. You're shooting a lot more, you're scoring a lot more. How has that felt like with that role change, and what do you think, your quality role on the team right now this year?
Yeah, it's going good on the offensive side for me, and a big role for me is the defensive side.
Yeah.
But my new role this year is what the team needs, and I'm just trying to do my best for the team, and I'm having an amazing time doing it. I love it.
That's awesome. That's fun to hear. Last night, not only was it a big conference game, but we got a W, which is awesome. Snapped a 3-game losing streak, and we often talk with Coach Everingham kind of about the wins and losses, and he always emphasizes that the wins and losses aren't important. Sure, we like to get those wins, and those are nice to have, but the real key is progressing and doing the right things, kind of like you said, on the court, and really growing and getting better each week. What was that game like last night for you? The win was big. What do you think that game last night did for your team going forward?
Well, after we were on a losing streak, and it brought a lot of the players' confidence down, and we can't have that on the team. And that win last night really brought a lot of confidence to the team. And our practices all week, we've been going super hard.
Yeah,
which really boosted our confidence for the game.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's also kind of different than the past. We are starting kind of a stretch where in the next 8 days we're going to be playing 5 games, which is kind of a lot. We've kind of expected the unexpected with the COVID season right now. There's been so many different things we're not used to. So the past 2 games, we've had a full week of practice for each game, and that's been nice, and we've seen that. And now we're going into a stretch where, again, we have a game tonight against West Noble, then a game at Bethany Christian, and then on Friday we play Concord.
At Concord
again. So those are 2 away games after tonight's game. So how do you think that's going to be different in comparison to the past weeks where you have less practice time? Do you think that affects you guys at all with the more games, in less amount of time?
This week, like I said, we went really hard in practice, and I think the whole team was just ready to play. And now that we have this stretch of games, not really practices, I think we're going to like that as a team. maybe not get as much information on each team and in that aspect of it, but we're ready to play and we're ready to win.
Does that force you to play more? I would think it would, but I'm going to ask the question. Does it force you to play more to your own strengths? Does it force you to be more in tune with what you do practice, with the things Wawasee basketball can do well, rather than trying to focus on the weakness in the opposition? Or does it not do that?
I think what we've been doing is playing to our strengths, and we're trying to get a lot of weapons in our arsenal, I guess, for the games. And we've been doing that with our 50 defense and our zone defense. We can switch that up just by coach saying, hey, let's do this, and boom, we're in it. And a lot of teams aren't ready for our switch. And I think we're playing to our strengths, and I think that helps us.
That switch and how fast you can make the switch would you say that's critical?
Yes. There's a lot of times after a timeout, coach will yell out 13, so we get in our zone defense just like that, and it's just for one play or whatever.
Okay.
And really, it messes with the opposition's approach to the game.
Yeah.
I think something kind of going back, I noticed on the score sheet here that you played all but 9 seconds of the game last night. And that's kind of been a consistent factor.
And you did the same thing in Mishawaka.
Exactly. Like, we've seen that a lot of times where a lot of the starters are getting almost entire game, time stuff. And we've been able to do that with, a week off between each game. But now that we're kind of going into that stretch where we're playing multiple games in multiple days, we kind of need more of the bench to kind of step up and do a lot more. What have you been seeing in practice that has really impressed you from people on your bench and so far in the year?
So what has impressed me in practice is everybody is bringing their all and making everybody else better. It's not really focused on themselves necessarily. They're trying to make everybody around them better, and that makes the whole team better. But Jay, one of our bench guys who hasn't seen a lot of minutes this year and actually got his first minutes this year, his first points this year, I've never seen anybody come in and shoot as good as him. He comes in fearless, not nervous at all. And Caden, another guard, he comes in and is very critical for us. Great in practice, just pushes everybody. His defense in practice pushes me, I know that. And it's been a big help.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about the bench that a lot of people don't understand is that most of the time you're scrimmaging those guys in practice. It's usually the starters against some of the bench guys, but they're going hard. They're competing for starting positions as well, and they're pushing the starters really hard because, again, they're kind of simulating oftentimes opposing teams, and, again, they're fighting for those starting roles. So that's really awesome to hear, and we've had to kind of dip into them throughout this kind of COVID-plagued season. I want you to talk a little bit about that, stretch where we went 2 weeks with COVID kind of riddling the team and coming off of 2 wins in a row, and that kind of spiraled us into kind of a little bit of a losing streak. Just tell us what it was like to kind of go through that COVID stretch and how that kind of affected where you are now.
For our team, I think COVID really hurt us in the moment, and we're just now coming out of that storm. A lot of the players came back from the 2-week stretch, but we didn't have Keaton or Cameron coming back because they got late close contacts. That's what it is. And them coming back later, I think, discouraged a couple of the players on the team, a lot of the players on the team, and we weren't where we needed to be at mentally. And I think we're just now coming out of that storm from that 2-week break.
Awesome.
Ethan, I want to get a little broader than basketball right now. What are your plans? What do you want to do? Where are you headed when you're leaving Wawasee High School?
This has been a thought for a while, but my dad owns a business, Carey Excavation, And I'm probably going to go to a community college or something just to study business and try and just learn the business right behind my dad and take it over one day.
You're going to come home and dig holes in the ground.
Yep.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Because you never know when you're going to need a hole.
Hey, that's very true.
that's-
Holes
yeah.
are vital for a lot of things.
Well, in Carey Excavation, you guys have done some of the biggest projects in the county.
Yeah. I think something else that I'd love to talk on, we kind of talked about this Exemplary Sportsmanship Award, and something that I've often liked to talk about is I think high school sports is so underrated with how it develops young athletes and young people in general. I feel like it really, gives people those hard work ethics, those, values and goals that you can't get from other areas in life. Just speak a little bit on how basketball here, especially at Wawasee in this community, has given you kind of some values and things that you're going to be able to take into your life outside of high school basketball.
So basketball it's almost like a job. And in high school, you have school or a sport, and those are your jobs. It's really showed me what working with a team is like, because no matter what, you're going to have bosses, you're going to have people next to you working, doing the same thing, and you got to learn how to get along with them. They might not always be your friend. This year, I'm blessed. I'm friends with everybody on the team. I like my bosses. It's going great. But sometimes that's not always the case, and I've learned great teamwork throughout basketball and soccer, and yeah, it's really helped me in that.
Ethan, I want to really thank you for coming in and being with us today. Good luck tonight against the West Noble Chargers.
Thank you.
This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. When we come back, more with head Wawasee High School basketball coach Jon Everingham. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Rejoining now with Coach Jon Everingham of the Wawasee Warriors. Coach, a very positive and unexpected thing happening this last week with your Wawasee Warriors, as you had not one but two young men who were the subject of a positive behavior report from the IHSAA. I've never heard of this before.
Yeah, I know. I told the guys that, we were having a meeting, watching some film, and we were talking through, what this was and what it meant, to our program. And I asked them, how many do you think I've had in 13 years of coaching? They're like 5, 4. This is the first one, and you do see it out there quite a bit, and it is something that generally is from an official or a game worker. An opposing AD, honestly, Tom Skemmelhorn fills those out quite a bit at West Noble. It's something that we should do more of, honestly. And when you see it, you're like, yeah, that's such a good idea. And you get caught up in, the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and you don't. But, I was just really happy that we were recognized. We didn't. We came up short on the scoreboard at Mishawaka, and the official kept running by me and just telling me how impressed he was with our team, and he filled out an exemplary report.
An exemplary behavior report.
Yes.
That's the name of it. Okay.
Yep. This is from the official here. I wanted to acknowledge number 10, Cameron Salazar, number 20, Ethan Carey, as listed in the game program from Wawasee Boys Varsity Basketball. The effort, number 10, Salazar, was as good as I will see all year on both ends of the floor. He did not take a play off in the contest and encouraged all of his teammates. Number 20, Carey handed the ball to the game officials all night long. Thank you, sir, when we tossed the ball to him. These examples of terrific sportsmanship took place even though they were on the wrong side of the scoreboard. I worked this game thinking how proud I would be if my own teenage son conducted himself as these two young men did. They are to be commended. So I just don't think the praise gets much better than that.
Nope.
For two of your senior guards that are more than deserving of that particular report.
And that brings us back to something that we've kind of touched on a little bit in previous shows, but high school basketball just goes way beyond sports, I feel like. this is developing young men and young women to be just, adequate and professional human beings. And we see stuff like this happen. And as a coach, that just has to feel amazing that not only are you teaching them those important athletic skills, but you're teaching them those incredible life skills as well, and that they're actually developing those as we see in game.
Well, it's much like everything else. I certainly can't take much credit here.
Right.
We do try to set things up within our basketball program and teaching the values to be successful beyond high school. But in all honesty, imagine being the parents of those two players.
Very true.
And imagine how proud you got to feel, hearing something like that about your own son and his behavior on a basketball floor. And so you got to know that this happens on the basketball floor, and we have a lot of other players that would get the same report if they would have been on the floor too, So it's not just those two guys, but they were recognized. They were on the floor. They conducted themselves in a extremely, in a manner that makes us all very, very proud. The community, the parents, the coaches. I get a chance to play just a small part in these boys' lives, and certainly hope that some of the things that we're teaching through, high school basketball is something that they can carry on beyond high school. But you think about not only on the floor, but you think, what do you think these guys are like in the classroom? Do you think all of a sudden they switch and they're kind of disrespectful to teachers in the classroom, or disrespectful in the hallway, or bullying people? No. I mean, this is who they are, and they're leaders in our school. They conduct themselves on the floor and off the floor like the young men that they are. And so I think it's just an overall representation of who they are, how their parents have raised them, and how they act, in their lives right now. So pretty cool stuff, man. I just could not be more proud. When I saw that, it's like, we lost a couple games that were kind of tough and weren't playing real well. And then you start realizing, there's so much more to what we're doing than just winning basketball games. We want to win, certainly, but there's more to it than just that, and just couldn't be more proud of getting recognized, having these guys get recognized for their behavior. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. I know you say there's a few of them around, and some ADs do it quite often. I'll tell you, I've never heard of one of these before. I've been calling basketball games for almost 25 years. I've never heard anybody getting one of these before.
You really don't see it very often, and like I said, we all should be doing it more because we do see good behavior, from other teams, players and stuff like that, and we have such good coaches, in the state of Indiana that are doing the same thing that we're doing in our program. And Ryan Bales, Coach Bales from Plymouth, is a very good friend of mine, and I told him after the game, I said, I just told him I loved him, and because I know how he's feeling. You get so wrapped up in winning and losing and worried about what everybody's thinking and all that stuff, and I saw him sitting on the stairs with his head kind of down, and so you put a lot into it, and it hurts when you lose, but trying to keep the perspective that you're supposed to have when you're working with young people, and this helps. It just was sent to us at just the right time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think the guys were feeling a little bit down about the way our season was going and how we were playing, and we're throwing the ball to the other team and all that stuff. And then something like this shows up at your doorstep, and it just couldn't be for us in our season. It just couldn't have been more perfect timing. And it's real. It's genuine. There's nobody's telling lies about these two guys on
right.
It's true.
Yep.
It actually is true. And then you could even go, like I said, you can go well beyond, the basketball floor. If they're doing it out there on the basketball floor, you got to know that they're doing it everywhere. And so not just right now, but well beyond high school, that's the type of people they're going to be. So really cool stuff.
Yeah, Coach, looking forward to some of the games coming up here. It's really cool to see. We've got a very busy week in Wawasee High School basketball right now. It's been a while since we've had multiple games in a week, but we've actually got 3 until our next Coach's Corner show. We've got tonight's game against West Noble. That's going to be here, and then we've got 2 road games at Bethany Christian on Tuesday and then at Concord on Friday. I think looking at West Noble, I think this is going to be a really, really fun matchup. I think these two teams look very similar. We got 2 common opponents, Central Noble and Angola. They lost both those games, but only lost by 11, 12 points to both those teams. And so I'm really excited. I know your guys are really excited right now. We're listed as 6-point underdogs, but just tell us a little bit about West Noble tonight and where your guys are at in that game.
Well, like I said earlier in the show, still trying to figure out, the team, reading them and figuring out what kind of motivates them, and it really is. It's hard. They're a hard team to read. But last night, this week, we put the only thing on our board in our locker room is the predictions. From last night's game, we were predicted to lose that game, and we're predicted to lose tonight. So. My hope was that we'd play with a little chip on our shoulder.
Yeah.
That people maybe not thinking that we're either in the right spot or people thinking that we're not going to be a good basketball team. But man, oh man, I'm telling you, you can see it. If you really watch closely, you can see it. You can see Grant Brooks, doing a double move in the post and making it look easy, right? And using his right hand to finish at the basket. You can see Colin Roberson knock down a three, and you're going, hey, whoa, wait a minute. Hey, if he can keep doing he's going to be an inside-outside threat. I've seen that kid practice. I've seen all the kids practice. It's a tough job as a coach to really bring out the things that you believe the kids can do on the floor, and they're out there in front of everybody trying to do some things that we believe that they can do. It's really awesome to sit next to a kid and say, I believe in you, and I think I said that more this week than any other week this season, that I do believe in this team. I believe in the guys. It's just sometimes it takes a little bit of time, to kind of get to where you want to be as a basketball player. Keaton Dukes has not always been the Keaton Dukes that you see him right now. He's had some rough games this year, and he had a lot of rough games last year. But it was a process of getting to where, he can be comfortable being a good scorer. And by the way, speaking of Keaton Dukes, his defensive effort has been the best on our team. He's our best defensive player. He's our best rebounder. He's our best scorer. He's probably second in assist. So it took him a while to get to where he is right now. And that's a lot of counseling. That's a lot of sitting with him thinking, I believe that you can be this type of player, right? And so sitting with Grant Brooks and Colin Roberson and all the other guys, this is the role we think you can fulfill, and trying to explain to them. And what gets lost in there is the confidence to actually go out there and do that. The coach thinks I can do this, but I'm not doing real well right now and that. And then, hey, it's okay, let's go. But you can see it in these guys, So when we start really putting everything together and everybody starts playing well, we got an interior presence in Roberson and Brooks. Even Mark Wiggs coming off the bench is not yet to play, but in practice he's doing some good things. Adam Beer at our forward spot, again, doing some good things on the floor. And then, our guards, the same type of thing. With Caden Weldy played well in the first half last night. You'll see him quite a bit tonight, playing some major varsity minutes. So you can see the formation of the team. I've been saying all year, after 10 games, we know who we are, right? We know the players that are going to be out there. We know who we are, and we just got to roll with it. And we got, as of yesterday, we had 5 games in 8 days. I think what you're going to see is the basketball team we can be soon. I don't know if it'll be tonight against West Noble, tough matchup, but pretty soon here you're going to be like, oh, there, click tonight, and look out, we could be a good basketball team.
Yeah, and that actually kind of brings me to my next question. The past 2 games, we've had a week of practice in between both of those games, and you can definitely see that kind of play out on the court. This will be the first time that not only have we had 2 games in almost a week, we're almost going to have 3. And even almost 4, because we have another Friday, Saturday next week. So how do you think that's going to affect you guys? You've been coaching for a long time, and I'm sure you've had a couple of these in your stretch. But how do you think this kind of compares to maybe what we've been used to in the past couple of weeks with, that full week of practice?
I do have some miles on the vehicle for me, coaching-wise or whatever, however you say it. But this is a weird year because, as a coach, the rule of thumb is you don't want to play 3 games in a week, unless it's the sectional. And so maybe once a year you play 3 games in a week. But with the reschedules and everything that's going on, we haven't even seen the weather yet, a reschedule because of the snow or something like that. I know there's supposed to be some weather on Monday or whatever, but if we do get a chance to play 3 games this week, what we'll have to keep an eye on is the amount of minutes that we're playing some of our guys. We basically last night, Cameron Salazar, Ethan Carey, and Keaton Dukes didn't come out of the game.
Right.
So they're playing 30 to 32 minutes, and at some point, when you play that much, your body is gonna react. And so we have to keep a close eye on what we do in practice, how long our practices are, how many minutes, getting them rest, throughout the game. It's just, we don't want to take them out, but we're going to have to tonight, I believe. And it gives opportunities to other players to go in there and show what they got. So, like I said, guys like Mark Wiggs and Welty will get opportunities to go in there and play a stretch of 2 or 3 minutes. And like I said, Welty last night played a good stretch of basketball in the first half that really helped us. So you'll see some guys coming in and doing some things maybe that you haven't seen, just because we got to get those guys on the bench, get them a rest, and so we can continue to play throughout the season, healthy.
Once we get done dispatching West Noble with that game this tonight, then with Tuesday we're moving to Bethany Christian. Real quickly, just give us an idea what to expect from Bethany Christian.
Yeah, their scores have been, if you really look down their scores, I'm not sure what the record is right now, and they've had some losses, but we beat them up pretty good last year. But they were young, and so they got the same team coming back. They got their stud, scorer there. So you certainly don't want to overlook anybody, and we're not going to, because they're certainly capable of beating us on Tuesday. And then the interesting matchup, again, not to try to overlook somebody, but since we're talking about it, Concord, beat Plymouth. They've had their struggles, man, over the last two seasons, but I'll be able to watch the film, but they must have put it together last night.
They beat Warsaw, yeah.
They beat Warsaw. I'm not sure what the score was, maybe 44-33.
37-33.
37-33. So they held Warsaw to 33 points. And I think what's impressive about that, and I did watch the Plymouth Concord game. Their interior Koltukian he's a first team all conference guy from last year, 6'6", 6'7". So they must have been able to get him active in the paint, control the tempo, and so they're coming on strong. I mean, they got some young guys, good guards, and we'll have our hands full with Concord. And then I know next week's radio show we'll be able to talk about, Lakeland, but you go Bethany, Concord, and Lakeland, all three very winnable games, including tonight against West Noble. So we should be playing in a lot of close games. We'd love to win them all, but they should be good high school basketball games.
Coach, thank you very much for being with us today. This has been Coach's Corner, discussion with Wawasee High School head basketball coach Jon Everingham on 93.7 FM The Mix, WRWT-LP, Syracuse.